Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Real Estate Post. Frank Garay here with our good friend Barry Habib. Say hello, Barry.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Awesome. Okay, before we get started, just remind everybody that Remen Wholesale, those guys are here to help you out with your 203H loans. Those are the loans so you can help people with houses that got messed up in natural disasters, California, Florida, Texas. So if you need help with that, check these guys out. They're here to help. Click the banner you see on your screen over on your right, or if you're watching us on Facebook, there's a link up above. With that, let's dive into today's show. Barry, we had talked earlier this morning. You actually, of course, were texting me and calling me at like 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, to talk about this. But that's no big deal because you know I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you were talking about the new tax reform bill, and that both in the House and Senate versions, there's a pretty tragic item in there, which is referring to capital gains. Of course, if you sell your house, you net some equity. That they are changing the exception in there from having to live in your house for 2 of the last 5 years to 5 of the last 8 years. What the heck? Tell us about this.
So I think we uncovered something that that no one is talking about, by the way, and that is absolutely critical from many standpoints. So let's understand what's going on. So first of all, today, if you were to sell your home today and close on your home today, you can enjoy a profit on that home up to $250,000 if you're single, and up to $500,000 if you're married. No tax on that profit. Now, it doesn't matter either way. This is a huge misconception. Most people say, well, what if I roll over the proceeds? Or what if I buy? You don't even have to buy another home. That's all gone. That's old stuff. So regardless of what you do, you have this freebie, $250,000 of profit free from tax if you're single, up to $500,000 free from tax if you're married. It's a wonderful benefit. There's one qualifier. The qualifier is that you have to have lived in that home for 2 of the past 5 years. But what they're doing is they're giving you a zinger here. The zinger is that according to this tax plan, it would go into effect January 1st. Now, it's not etched in stone yet as far as when it would begin, but everything points to starting January 1st, if you closed,
Do you have my email address?
you would have to have lived there for 5 of the past 8 years. And that's a huge problem for people who have lived in a home longer than 2 years, but less than 5 years. Because what happens is that on that profit now, you would have to pay capital gains tax. Typically, it would depend on your tax bracket, but typically 15% or 20%. Now, Frank, you and I were talking about this. If you lived in a home 4 years, let's say, in so many parts of the country, that could be rather significant gains, $50,000, $100,000, $150,000. On $100,000, that's a $15,000 or $20,000 tax. That, guess what? Your customer has no clue that this is coming. It's going to be a nasty surprise for them. And worse yet, imagine the person who's scheduled to close right now. They're scheduled to close first week of January, second week of January. They're all thinking that everything's rosy and everything's fine, and they're going to get this potentially nasty surprise. A couple of things we should note. As you know, currently the tax proposals from the House and Senate have yet to be reconciled. Both of them say we're going to 5 years out of the last 8. So that's going to happen. The House bill says come January 1st, that's it. If you close January 1st, you're going to be into this new category. The Senate bill says we're going to throw you a bone here, and that's all it is, a bone, but it could be significant, meaning that if you have your house under contract in 2017 and you close in 2018, we'll give you the 2 years instead of the 5-year deal, so that could save you. But still, that's an awfully big risk to take. What if that proposal goes away in reconciliation? If it does, your customer could be looking at a bad surprise. So think about this. A, if it's easy enough, try and close them by the end of December, and then you have no risk. The other thing we have to think about is that what happens in the future here? If somebody's lived in a home for 3 or 4 years, and they're suddenly looking at a $30,000 tax, they may not be so anxious to sell that home. They may say, I'm going to wait another year before I do. And in a market that's already starved for inventory, what's that going to do? Fewer transactions, greater competition, and it probably pushes prices up a little bit more because of lack of inventory and choice. Now, granted, a lot of those people who are selling would then become a buyer, and it would equal things out. But I think overall, it takes an already starved market for inventory and exacerbates that situation a bit.
It does. And after you told me this, I was just completely freaking out about it. And I told Brian, we were like, what the hell? And so we went ahead and we did our live podcast yesterday. And this is what we talked about. And the viewers that were on the live podcast were like, I can't believe this is happening. Because let me tell you something, man. If we're going to go back, 5 years, let's go back 4.5 years. So you're outside of the 5-year window. How many people 4.5 years ago bought a home and have gotten appreciation, who could now sell that home for more money than they paid for it, who could take that money and use it to upscale or, buy up or whatever or go across this country or whatever they want to do, right? How many people, are in that bucket? I'm going to tell you, that's a lot of doggone people, man. And now that's a lot of people that when they realize what's going on with this new capital gains issue, is that they're going to go, well, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to sell. It's exactly what you're saying. It's going to compound the lack of inventory problem. And again, the worst side of this whole thing is what you just brought up. I mean, it's not the worst. The worst side is the long-term problems, right? That's definitely going to stagnate real estate going forward. That's the worst side. But the immediate, nuclear bomb is just like you said, if the House version does get accepted when they reconcile, which is, hey, this all kicks into effect January 1st, there are people in escrow right this second that are in everybody's pipeline who's watching this video right now who are going to have to succumb to this new capital gains rule, and they're going to get penalized, and it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars, and they don't even know it's coming.
And Frank, nobody's talking about this. We broke the story because we uncovered it, and we broke the story to our MBS Highway subscribers. And yeah, we could tell you, because we could tell you appreciation in every single county historically into the future. So it's a lot. When you say how many people, it's a ton of people and so many areas. I mean, if you just looked at the United States in general, for the last 3 years, we've been averaging 7% appreciation. So when you compound that out, it's close to 25% appreciation. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out on a $300,000 home, that's 25% is an awful lot of money that you'd be talking about here. You're thinking about $75,000 on a $500,000 home. You're talking about $125,000. This is real money if you have to pay 15 or 20% tax on that. And if you don't know it's coming, if this is an unforeseen expense, all of a sudden I get a tax bill for $20,000. Not easy to just come up with $20,000. This is where we could be really heroes to those current clients, but also at least contemplate this with some other clients that may be in this window. This is not a good thing in my opinion.
No, not in ours either, man. I'm glad you brought it up to us. I'm glad we're doing the show. We did it on the live podcast. So we're going to encourage all you guys that are watching right now, get this show out to everybody in your entire pipeline. Let's go through those pipelines and make sure what we're dealing with in there and who in those pipelines might fall into this situation, and forewarn them, let them know what's going on. Like Barry said, if you've got somebody who's supposed to close first week of January and they're going to fall into this problematic capital gains issue here, maybe try and get those guys closed up before the end of the year.
So remember, I'm not saying that it's 100% that this is, things could change. The 5 years is staying. The House does offer some benefit if we're under contract, so you would be safe. But the thing of it is, you don't know if that's going to survive. They may say, oh no, we're going with this January 1st deal. So I just think it's playing a little bit too much of a gamble with too big dollars. If it's easy enough for you to play it safe and close in December, if you're in that situation, if you're living in the house longer than 2 years but less than 5 years, and you do have capital gains that are significant, why not play it safe? Why not just take the risk off the table? It may evaporate, but let's just try and see the future before it becomes obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you're right. This isn't set in stone yet, but why risk it, especially if you've been warned and you're in a position to go ahead and take that precaution? Why not do that just to be safe? But at the end of the day, going forward, we're still going to be looking at the way it looks. We're still going to be looking at a 5-year situation versus a 2, which is a big difference. And so I think that it's going to have to really play into listing agents, real estate agents, and loan officers when you start taking loans after the beginning of the year and opening escrows and trying to get listings. One of the questions is going to have to come up is going to be like, hey, how long have you lived in this house? You're looking to sell it. How long have you been here? Because things have changed. 2 years is a lot easier to get to after you bought a house than 5. You know what I mean?
And there's less appreciation. There is certainly some, but there's less appreciation that had occurred in 2 years, although there'll be some. But I'll tell you what, 4 or 4.5 years, as you previously stated, there could be very significant appreciation that has occurred in that property. Now, remember, you're able to mitigate that by deducting your selling costs, your buying closing costs, any improvements to the home. All would go to reduce or mitigate that. So save those receipts. But still, there's a big chance that you could have a deep tax obligation or liability that is unforeseen at the present time.
Okay, man. Good advice. Good information, guys. I hope you take it, run with it, do whatever you can with it. You know, at bare minimum, make sure you get something out to your entire database, letting them know what this new rule is and how it's going to possibly impact them going down the road in the future. MBS Highway, you guys got some stuff in there for you guys about this?
So much stuff in there, team. Just take a look. If you haven't already, take us up on giving a look to MBS Highway. You really should. Your clients deserve it. You deserve it.
Okay, so we'll put the link down to MBS Highway down below so you guys can try it out for 2 weeks for free, so you can stay up to speed on what's going on with this and a whole lot of other things, market, etc. Barry, thanks so much for being on the show. Guys, leave us your comments down below. Do us a favor, forward, share, and subscribe. And once again, Barry, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.